When it comes to Chelsea Football Club's current crisis or near crisis of not winning games, not even scoring goals, everyone is looking for someone to blame. Is it the Chelsea manager?
You ain't so tough with that bad boy talk. I'ma get it how I'm living, I'ma walk the walk. Outline my lines, I rap through thought.
What's happening, people? Welcome back to Football Therapy with me, your host Jan. Let's talk about the gaffer then. Pochettino, is he the problem? Of course, everyone always says the blame lies with the manager of the football club, whether they're playing well or they're playing badly. Of course, he chooses the personnel, he sets them up tactically, he coaches them, he creates the culture. And what are the results of all that? Well, currently Chelsea lie in 14th place, like the worst start to a top flight domestic campaign for 50 odd years, something like that. And Chelsea have been relegated since then, so it's a worrying concern. And I'm not so sure. I want to discuss it with you guys today. I've got some points, and I want to tell you my biggest concern or problem really with Pochettino since he's been coaching since the beginning of the season. Of course, the vibes were good in pre-season, goals were being scored against Premier League opposition like Brighton, who of course we play in a couple of days. The link-ups was good, granted a lot of it went around new signing and absentee Christopher Nkunku, but still, is it an excuse? There is a couple of, I suppose, problems I have, but really, there's one glaring one that I want to talk about. Firstly, though, I don't think the gaffer, the manager, can do that much more. Lots of Chelsea fans are upset and everyone's looking for someone to blame, but perhaps neutrals and broadcasters and pundits in the media are all backing Pochettino as a good coach and maybe looking at Chelsea holistically as a failing project for the moment. And maybe a lot of people don't understand that. Look, the biggest difference for me, not just from pre-season, but indeed the very beginning of the season as well, Chelsea looked quite good in the opening couple of games. You know, even though we lost to West Ham, even though we drew against Liverpool, certainly the Liverpool game, we looked pretty good. Klopp himself sort of accepted they were quite lucky to get away with a point against Pochettino's Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, which was his first game in charge. Granted, even now, we're in our embryonic phase of Pochettino's Chelsea, the very beginning of his journey, where he will experience teething issues and have to learn about a very young squad, of which he's missing a lot of first-team players. And probably, even though Chelsea have spent a lot of money, are probably missing a couple of key players or profiles anyway. So my biggest issue with Pochettino is this. Enzo Fernandez. I think since we signed the Argentine World Cup winner, he's been pretty darn good. Not flawless, but considering he's been pretty darn good in what has been an otherwise underperforming and struggling team, that deserves a great deal of credit. But the thing to note is he was not playing in the number 10. He was playing in, I suppose, the double pivot. Now, I understand how we don't want to play him as deep as he was last season, and there is value in pushing Enzo Fernandez closer to the goal. He can use these creative passes a little bit more, I suppose, creatively. He can express the range a bit better. It's no longer just long-range, quarterback playmaking passes. It's a little bit more through balls. But when he occupies that space so close to goal, Chelsea lose something. Not just lose something because he's occupying that space and maybe he doesn't have certain elements that are required to play that role, but you're missing him in the reserved role. And I'm going to go into this in a little bit more detail. I just want to take the opportunity to thank those of you who have subscribed to this channel, Football Therapy. You are, of course, all welcome to subscribe. Hit the bell if you do choose to subscribe. And thank you for liking the video. Enzo Fernandez. Look, I understand Pochettino's position here is a difficult one, and I want to list off the problems he has. First of all, his first choice in Christopher Nkunku, and arguably his second choice in Carney Chukwuemeka, number 10s, are both out and injured, and that's of course a very frustrating and unfortunate position to be in. But you could also say as well, that he's looking at a double pivot and he might be wanting heavy industry from those two reserved players. Of course, Moises Caicedo suits that role and he is playing back there. But also he's decided to partner him with Conor Gallagher, who, to be honest, plays the role pretty well. Granted, Conor Gallagher isn't going to play these, beautiful long diagonals too often. And Conor Gallagher does like getting forward. He does like taking on responsibility to try and lift the team. Of course, he's been wearing the captain's armband of late, which may be contributing to that extra responsibility, perhaps lifting his, his responsibility to do more, get on the front foot. And even when Chelsea were a man down, a goal down against Villa at home, he had moments where he did wicked turns in the final third, looked pretty impressive and really tried to put the foot on the gas for the Chelsea team, maybe when other players didn't. But the truth is, I would swap them. I would swap them right now, and not only that, I would play just different players. Look, I don't want to say drop Enzo Fernandez because for the aforementioned reasons in this video of him playing so well, I would play Conor Gallagher in the number 10. I would, to be honest, there's a very good chance in the absence of Malo Gusto, and I'll speak about this in more detail in videos, maybe match previews, we might see Moises Caicedo playing right back, like he did for Brighton, and in that case, you could see a double pivot of Gallagher and of course Enzo Fernandez, like we saw before we signed Caicedo, and then we can move someone into the number 10. I feel like this number 10 position needs to be occupied by a different profile than Enzo Fernandez. Even if it's not your first choice or second choice in, of course, Nkunku and Chukwuemeka, put Cole Palmer in there. He himself says he likes to play as a cam or a right wing. So presumably his preference is being in that role. Anyone, man. Granted, maybe not someone like Mudryk, but a Raheem Sterling, a Noni Madueke. There are players that I think you could put in there to play. Maybe you play a two-striker system and you don't play a number 10. Maybe you play a 4-4-2. And, the wide mids and the bank of four, you play like Mudryk and Sterling on the, next to whatever, a couple of midfielders. You pick them, Enzo and Caicedo. Maybe you drop Gallagher then, although I think that would be unfair. And then you play Breuer and someone else up front until Jackson comes back. But for me, I know it's difficult and I know it's tricky, but I feel like not only is Enzo not performing to the required level as a number 10 in that profile, I'm very mindful here not to dig him out because he's been pretty darn good for Chelsea. But in terms of that profile, that role, I don't think he's delivering. And I think ultimately that's hindering Chelsea's attack. And also, we just lose some of the beautiful, passing that he has demonstrated from a deeper role. Maybe you play a 4-3-3 and you just completely eliminate the number 10. You keep the same players. You keep Caicedo as a lone 6, flanked by two number 8s in Enzo Fernandez and Conor Gallagher. And to be honest, guys, Gallagher is a number 8. He will tell you that. Crystal Palace fans will tell you that. He played as a right number 8 at Crystal Palace. Didn't he win their player of the season playing there, scoring loads of goals, working really hard? And it's really, Enzo is a number 8. He literally wears the number 8 for Chelsea. He can play that left pocket a little bit more deeper than the number 10. And he can look to play passes to Gallagher running up, so then he'll tuck into the pivot, or vice versa. And of course, you've got 3 attackers. Should we play a 4-3-3 like that? Maybe we can be a little bit more offensive with our fullbacks, seeing, of course, Ben Chilwell starting at left back rather than centre back Levi Cole starting there. I'm sure Pochettino has his reasons for the choices he makes as Chelsea coach. Of course, it's very easy for fans to always speak your opinions. As the saying goes, it's a game of opinions. He sees what the players do on the pitch. He has ideas. He knows these perhaps particular frailties in the data that we don't see, we're not privy to, and he comes up with the ideas of how to play. But for me, for my eye test, for what I've seen so far, if I could make one change, I know everyone's talking about Chilwell, Mudryk battle at left wing. That's been done to death. I agree with you guys. I would probably drop Thiago Silva. I'd play, Disasi and Colwill at centre-back. And I would play, Chilwell and maybe Caicedo at right-back until Gusto or James can return. Conventional fullbacks, but for me, a massive, massive thing is getting the best of Enzo Fernandez and getting the best out of that number 10 position. In a 4-2-3-1 formation, it's so important to get the most out of that. Whether it was like an old iteration of Pochettino's 4-2-3-1 that we saw at Tottenham. Granted, it's changed slightly, his tactics in his Chelsea team, but the old one was very much a second striker formation with Dele Alli. Of course, scoring, 17 Premier League goals in one season. God, imagine a player getting 17 Premier League goals. Brentford have got strikers that are scoring 20 goals. And I just don't think we'll get anything. And this has been a case for a long, long time now. Granted, I think his current 4-2-3-1 is different than number 10. Maybe it's a little bit more of a playmaker than Dele Alli was. But the point being, I just don't think you still need that player to get the most out of the three players around them. You've got essentially 4 attackers on the pitch, which in theory is a very offensive formation. The 4-2-3-1, in theory, is a very offensive formation because you've got 4 attackers on the pitch. We haven't scored a goal in 3 games. So clearly it's not suiting what we're trying to do. So if you don't want to go to a 4-3-3, for me, you've got to move Enzo Fernandez back into the spaces he was previously occupying where he looked a lot better. And you've got to try different players in the number 10 position in that formation to play in the pocket, especially in these Premier League games against low blocks. It's just, you need someone maybe who can dribble a bit more as well, man. Anyway, guys, I wanted to talk about it. It's been playing on my mind, so let me know what you think. Do comment down below what your issue is with how Chelsea play currently. Do you agree with me in terms of Chelsea's current problems and how we're playing? And I really look forward to reading your comments. And thank you for subscribing and liking the video. And yeah, hopefully things will get better, guys. Stick with us. We're going to be okay. Peace.